So this will be my review of the 2025 Wolfman movie. Non-spoiler first, right off the bat, this movie is the epitome of wasted potential. In my opinion, sure, but also, I'm objectively correct. This movie is the epitome of wasted potential. I would give it a 3 or 4, if I'm being nice, out of 10. Now, with that being said, it's not that there's nothing good about the movie. It's actually frustrating how many decent or even good things there are in the face of all the bad, okay? With that being said, I am going to go into spoilers now. So if you want to check out the movie, go ahead. That's your decision. I don't know why, but go ahead, genuinely. This movie, spoilers, this movie is so frustrating because there are some really good qualities about this movie. And here's how much this movie frustrated me. I took notes. I don't take notes. I go off the dome. I took notes right here. Here we go. Good cinematography. There are some really good shots in this movie, particularly more so in the very beginning and in the very end. So this movie opens up in what we realize fairly quickly is a flashback of the main character, whose name I forget, the main character and his father, and they're out hunting. And while they're out hunting, they try to paint the dad as like abusive, maybe, or like utterly harsh, but the couple of instances we get, it seems relatively justified. So they're out hunting, they're in the forest, and the dad is trying to tell the kid, like, hey, don't eat that mushroom, because that mushroom can kill you. I think it's like a nightcap or something. And he's like, don't eat that one because it can kill you. And then they're walking along, and then the kid is like picking it up and going to eat it, and he's like, hey, don't do that. I'm trying to save your life. Don't do that. And then at another point later on, and after that, he's like, hey, eventually I'm not going to be around to protect you. So you have to listen to me. Otherwise, bad things can happen. Later on, while they're talking, they see a deer, or I believe it's a doe, but they see a deer off in the woods, and they're like, ooh, and they're getting their guns out. And the father is like readying his rifle on it, and he realizes that the son isn't around. Because the son, unbeknownst to him, has taken off because the deer took off. So the son just took off all on his own in the woods. And then this is whenever we get our first glimpse of one of the Wolfmen. Because, again, spoilers, there's multiple Wolfmen in this movie. And they don't abide by the whole thing of like, oh, they only come out during a full moon, which isn't a problem, right? Each movie can have its own lore attached to, but trust me, that is the least of the problems. Anyway, the son runs off on his own, and there's like this monster in the woods. And whenever the father finally catches up to him, he like grabs him, and he's like, what are you doing? You cannot just run off alone in the woods. This kid is probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, 11, right around in that age. So again, they try to purposely portray the father as like, oh, he's super harsh, but it's like, hey, the dad is literally trying to keep the kid alive. Fast forward a little bit, quickly they realize that like, oh, the Wolfmen not only are being seen by them, but they see them, and they start running them down. So they get up into a tower, and they're hiding, essentially. And then there's like a weird like dog whistle, and the Wolfmen both run off. So the father and the son survive. And we flash forward a little bit, probably to like that night, I believe it's supposed to be. And the son hears the dad on the radio, goes down. The dad is telling like Jerry, I forget the guy's name. But he's like, I saw it out there. Da, da, da. And then the son is just kind of like creeping up and listening. The father turns around, and then black screen, 30 years in the future. Okay. Now, this is where one of my biggest frustrations with the movie begins, because this is whenever the acting is drained. There's no emotion in this film. There are sequences in this movie. I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but it's clear that they're trying to show like, okay, flash forward, the kid who is now a grown adult, he is in a loveless marriage. They portray that fairly well because nobody is trying in the acting. But even though he's in a loveless marriage, they have a daughter who appears to be like 13 or 14, but I also wrote down the kid should have been like 7 or 8. Because of how the kid acts throughout the movie, it's a little too childish for like 13 or 14. And remember how I said that they try to portray the father as like, oh, kind of abusive or really harsh? There's a scene where they live in New York, and there's a scene where they're walking down the street and the daughter gets up on like construction equipment, like the little things that separate like a construction area from like the street, the little orange things, and she's walking on them and and he's like, get down. get down. Get down. And then he like raises his voice at her. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm really not that kind of guy. And it's like, dude, you're, again, 12-year-old daughter who should know better was not listening to you. It's okay if you get a little bass in your voice. You don't have to act like you were, throwing bows at her right in the middle of the street. But anyway, then we go back home. The mom is like stereotypically very deep into her work, and the dad is more focused on just being a dad. Even though you go to find out that he's a writer as well, or I believe a journalist, and the mom is a journalist, I think. And then he gets, whenever we flash forward and they're at home, there's again the whole thing of like, kind of a loveless marriage thing. He gets a letter in the mail, and he's found out that his dad has been confirmed as dead, because you later find out that his dad has been missing for a while. So they talk about that, and then they make the decision of, okay, our marriage is having a problem. And because of that, we think maybe a solution for that would be, a summer up in the woods. Why would that solve it? If you're in a loveless marriage, a vacation isn't going to solve it. A vacation isn't the solution. You know why? The vacation ends. Like, the vacation ends, and then you have to go back to being like your normal self. Actually talk, have some emotion. Because here's the thing again, they're having this whole thing, and this conversation mostly happens like the next day. He's like waiting for outside of work, and he brought her lunch, but everybody's like, I really think that we should. And you're like, am I supposed to care? Am I supposed to care about what's happening to these people? These people who are putting no effort in. And what's even more frustrating is that the main actor and the main actress are both good actors. They both done well in good things. But anyway, so they're like, yeah, we'll go live in the woods for a summer, because that'll fix our loveless marriage. Great. Anyway, they go up there because they're going to, like clean up the house, collect all the dad's things, kind of clean it out and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they go up there, and on the way in, they arrive to what they think is like the driveway of the house, but it turns out maybe it isn't. There's somebody off in the woods whose name might as well should have been Red Herring. He's just like staring at them. And then they're like, whoa. And then he walks up through the woods, and he turns out he's just a hunter. And you actually find out he is the son of the other dad that the dad was talking to in the beginning. And he's like, do you remember me? And the main character's like, yeah, I remember you. This is one of the other bummers, is that guy, who's the other dad's son, way better actor than almost anybody else in the movie. So anyway, fast forward. They're driving along, and it's now a little bit later because all the roads are super long, and even to get to the houses, you apparently have to drive 4 hours whenever you're at the end of somebody's driveway. Anyway, they're driving, and it's the middle of the night, and the guy is being, again, like I said, his name might as well have been Red Herring. He's being very creepy for no good reason, and he's like, yeah, you got a good family. That's good. You should care for him. And then, the whole bait and switch thing. And then all of a sudden, and the dad's like, what? And then he looks over, and just Wolfman. Wolfman's just in the road, which they could have just plowed into him, because you find out later they're not that strong. Like, they're not, whatever. Anyway, and then they veer off the road. They're in this like big moving truck. They veer off the road. They crash. Wolfman takes that guy away. So the best actor in the movie is now dead, and the dad gets scratched. Oh my goodness. And again, the whole time, even in scenes where they are like screaming and running away from the obvious monster, because that's one thing. And like I said, there are good things about the movie, okay? The visual effects are good. The effects of like the gore, which, I mean, if you're going to watch a horror movie, there should be decent effects. And a lot of it seemed very practical. So that's some good stuff about it. But like, and another thing I really appreciated is, because I always hate whenever you go to one of these movies and you're like, I know what we're coming to see. Like, we're going to see Frankenstein. And then for half the movie, they act like, is it really a Frankenstein? What is no, you quickly are like, there are Wolfmen in this movie. And that's like right in the intro. That's right now. You see him, he's there. So he's chasing them. And there's like screaming. I don't know if they piped in the screams, but literally the wife and the daughter and even the main actor are just like, oh no, oh my goodness, no. And it's like, I don't care, I'm bored. Why am I bored watching a monster chase people? So anyway, they run away, and luckily they crash like right by the house. They get in the house, and slowly, and this is another cool part of the movie, the dad is slowly becoming a Wolfman. He's slowly transforming because of the scratch. And they do this cool thing where he literally, because he's becoming like an animal, he's becoming a wolfman, he loses the ability to even speak. And you see it from both perspectives. And his perspective is slowly becoming more almost like predatory. Like the predator, not like a predator, but like the predator, how it sees more like heat, and he's seeing like all these different motions. Whenever we see the wife through his eyes, she has like glowing eyes, and there's like trails of stuff. It's actually interesting. That's actually interesting. The characters aren't. Isn't that great? So anyway, but yeah, he slowly loses the ability to speak. There's a very cool scene where like whenever they get inside and they start to like scrounge around and they're able to get the lights on and stuff, she sees the wound on his arm and she cleans up the wound. And that was another thing I appreciate about the movie, genuinely. And I'm not trying to just like rag on it. And this is one of the things that's frustrating, is because it's almost better, in a manner of speaking, to watch a bad movie with bad actors and because everything bad, you can be like, oh, okay. But whenever you watch a movie that's just a mixed bag, and it's just like, what are we doing? You could have made a couple of tweaks. So often in these movies, whenever people have to administer first aid, somebody just inexplicably knows how to perfectly like stitch a wound or wrap a wound. And that does not happen in this movie. The wife just finds some gauze and just wraps up the arm. Not great. But later, and it leads to a solid scene with good visual effects and like creepy tension, except again for the acting. It leads to a good scene later where she eventually sees that it's like dripping blood again, and she peels it back and it's all gnawed away because the husband, who's now unable to speak and is like visually changing a little bit and has this weird look about him, he's been gnawing on his own arm because he's starting to get these cravings. And like literally as he's doing it, there's like a whole like a thing erupts in the house, and he scrounges away to the corner and he's like a caged animal. He's like gnawing on his arm, and like one or two of his own teeth fall out, and they cut to the wife, and no joke, she is doing this. That's it. There's no screams. She's watching her husband eat his own arm. There's no screams. There's no anything. It's just, and then he just like walks past her because he's kind of like going in and out of like the animality of it, right? So he kind of like, he still is unable to speak, but because he becomes a little bit more human again, he's like, oh, and then he just walks past her. Then it's never talked about. It's great. And again, the whole time, oh my gosh, at some point they're outside running from the Wolfman, and the daughter is just like, it's coming, mommy. And it's like, leave her outside. Why is this 12-year-old acting 7? Now, I understand, like, it could be, like, a bad situation, so they act a little bit more childish. It didn't seem right. It genuinely seemed like they should have just casted a younger actress. The daughter's character is fine. They do this, like, kind of sweet thing throughout the movie where the main character, the dad, takes her hand and puts it on his head, and they have like this whole cutesy thing where it's like, oh, you're a mind reader, read my mind, and she's always like, I love you, baby, or something, and he's like, oh, you nailed it. And then that comes in too much later, in my opinion. They do it like over and over. But I'm gonna go back to my notes because this movie is so frustrating. Bland, no emotion, yes. Terrible acting, yes. Decent story. It's a very regular story, because what you also then find out is, remember, like I said a while ago, the main character's dad was missing, and they just presumed he's dead. Turns out the Wolfman that's outside trying to get in and kill him, that's the dad, of course. And there's no like, whoa, it's like, obviously that's the dad. Because they end up, whenever the main character like more fully transforms into Wolfman, he fights him and then just kills him. That's that. And that sucks. But anyway, that's that. Fights him, kills him, rolls up the dad's dad, arm sleeve, and is like, oh, there's like a Marine tattoo or something. And he's like, oh, dad, even though he doesn't say it, but you see it on his face. That was another thing, was like, the visual effects are solid. Some of what they do with the Wolfman is solid as far as like visually, but also it just doesn't seem like enough. Like, it's like they were going for a more minimalized Wolfman, and I just don't think that's what this movie needed. I think it needed a little bit more grotesque, a little bit more monstrous. But, you know, I mean, I don't make movies. But apparently sometimes the people that do don't do it great. You know what I mean? But, yeah, that was another thing. Again, it was just... So anyway, they kill the Wolfman. And I'm skipping over some stuff, but honestly, nothing important happens. Nothing interesting happens. But again, and it's so frustrating that there's some good things just sprinkled, just sprinkled throughout. There's some decent things amongst this sea of manure. There's one scene after the dad kills his dad and defeats that Wolfman, where now he's a little bit more animalistic, and he's coming after the wife and the daughter. They run into the shed that's on the property. And this is another thing, like I mentioned before, about the switching POVs, where we see like the wife and the daughter are sitting in the corner like, oh no, where's dad? Because it's just pitch black out. And then you switch to the dad's POV and he is like here. And that was actually a decent little jump scare, because like you genuinely can't tell in the darkness, but because he's got like that animal vision, right? He's got that not predator, but predatory vision, that he's just like right there and they can't even tell. And then they decently trick him because he goes to lunge at him and they put a bear trap. And then he has to like gnaw his own leg off, which again is so frustrating. It's a decent visual effect. It properly makes you go like, oh, gross, because then he has to like crawl and he's got like half a leg, blah, blah, blah. But again, the whole time they flash to the mom especially, and I don't know why. This is a good actress. She has been in good things. For anybody that doesn't know, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but she played kind of like the country hit character in a show called The Ozarks with Jason Bateman. She's the young blonde woman from that. But in this, everything is just, she actually, and makes it more frustrating, she actually has a decently acted out scene earlier in the movie where she is like trying to radio for help, and she's like, my husband is so sick, I don't know what's wrong with him, he's unable to speak, I think. And then that's just cut short. It just stops. And then I guess all of her acting was done then. But so they kill the Wolfman. The dad kind of turns on them. They trick him into stepping into a bear trap. Half of his leg gets ripped off. And then they run back to the scene of the crash and get the gun off of the hunter from the beginning. Remember the best actor in the movie who died after 2 minutes of screen time? They go back and they get his gun. And then they go back up into the tower. I believe it's called like the blind or whatever. They go back up into the tower that the dad and the son from the beginning were in. And the dad, who's now fully a Wolfman, just climbs up, and then they shoot him. They just shoot him, and then he dies, and then that's that. And they try to get some like cheap, like kind of emotional thing, because in the beginning of the movie, the father and the son are like overlooking this valley, and it's beautiful. Like I said earlier, solid cinematography. Whenever it counts, a lot of it is just dark and not a lot is done artistically. But whenever there is light, there's some solid shots. And they try to recreate that with the daughter and the mom, and it just feels so cheap. And it feels so cheap because I don't care about these characters, because they've been acted so poorly, because the story is so bland. It's so like played out that you've done nothing to earn what you're trying to get here. But yeah, and then that's it. The Wolfman just dies. And as far as we know, all the Wolfmen are dead. So they've just defeated, they just killed this mythological creature is just gone. And whenever I was watching it, I was like I said before, wasted potential on so many different fronts. And it made me think of this passage in the Bible. So in the ESV, I'm going to be reading starting at Matthew 25, verse 14. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you out over much. Enter into the joy of your master." He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours." But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." This movie is the epitome of the one who has taken the talents, taken the good cinematography, the decent story, the okay writing, the great visual effects, these good actors, a good director in Leigh Whannell who made the incredible movie Invisible Man, and, as good as it is, Saw and other things, taken all of that, buried it in the ground, just did nothing with it. Gave the most. If you look this movie up, everything, and I was a little trepidatious about this at first, but like Rotten Tomatoes is like 50%. IMDb, I believe, is like a 5 out of 10. And sometimes that can yield decent results, because sometimes, if a movie's divisive, then, a decent number of people loved it, a decent number of people hated it. This movie is just nothing. It's so bland. And it's frustrating, because especially in relation to the parable of the talents, it's like you have been given these things. You have been given these blessings. Use your time wisely. And in the case of Wolfman, talents were not properly used. If you're like, man, I want to go see a Wolfman movie, go watch the one with Benicio del Toro. Because the scene where he transforms in front of everybody and he's like strapped to the chair, that's better than this whole movie. So I'm dead serious. But yeah, man, what a disappointment. This is the first review I've done where I was frustrated after watching this movie. I was like, are you kidding me? So it does not get a glowing review. But regardless, if you've seen the movie, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this review, and let me know what movie or TV show or whatever you'd like to see me review in the future. And as always, God loves you, and I love you. God bless, my friend. Consider supporting me today by going to thelordsgiant.com and making a donation or picking up some merch, or by finding me on Patreon. Link in the description.